So we try and stay away from such things on this channel. It's a positive channel. I want you to have fun, and I want to have fun. Sometimes people want us to stop having fun. Well, you could argue we're going to have the most fun ever, right? Because when it comes to AEW or WWE, I don't care about the three letters above the door. I care about the wrestlers, I care about the storylines, and I care about the fact that I'm a fan. As long as they do put on a good show, this bald idiot is having a good old time, but I can also go over the line. So this video has basically come from... I always go with what people ask me on social media. Cheap plug Simon at 316. And recently I've had a lot of those random DMs. Random DMs these days are like, oh my gosh, I'm in your area. Can I come round? To Simon, what do you think about very specific things in pro wrestling? This one, which hit me on Instagram and Twitter, was July 12th, right? It's the All-In weekend. We can call that AEW's WrestleMania, for lack of a better term. But we are also getting, this is so funny, NXT Great American Bash, which I believe will run at the same time at All-In, because All-In will run in the day, essentially. Then the evening, it is Saturday night's main event, which is largely rumored to be main evented by Goldberg versus Gunther, probably for the World Championship. And the next day, we have another show, which is Evolution 2. You remember Evolution from like 5 years ago, whatever it was, probably longer now, which was the all-women's pay-per-view. Well, now it's back, and it's going to be that weekend. Now, let us extract the positives from this first. It's way too much wrestling to watch in a weekend. Of course it is, if you want to do it awesome. Some idiot's going to have to, because he reviews wrestling for What Culture Wrestling. Make sure you subscribe to them, and please do subscribe to me as well. But again, I'm blessed. I'm lucky. What a cool job to have. I'm never going to moan about it. But if you are a normal fan, for lack of a better term, and you have a life to live, or you have some kids, or you have a family, or you have some people you need to see, or maybe you have to work that weekend, you're probably going to have to elongate this over a week, maybe 2 weeks, to get it all in. But it's still pretty fun, right? It's going to feel manic. It's going to feel exciting. If you're into social media, that's going to be, pew, pew, shooting all over the place. There'll be the idiots as well, but they're here anyway, so you don't have to worry about it. But on the flip side, if you do want to put your business hats on, and I think there's an element of a fan hat here too, it is a little bit much, right? And I think you would have to be ridiculous. Some people have said to me, Simon, do you think it's a coincidence? No. If you do think that, as always, send me your bank details. I have a wonderful Ponzi scheme to sell you, and we're all going to get very rich off the back of it. But quite clearly, for whatever reason, WWE has decided we're going to try and marginalize AEW as much as possible. And the reason I don't like it as a fan, right? Because I would much rather have Great American Bash on the weekend afterwards, because then I get to extend my excitement. Of course I want to watch that show. Of course I want to watch Evolution 2. Of course I want to watch Goldberg versus Gunther. We could do a whole video on that, because people are going crazy about it. And if you dot things around, it's just way more fun. Like, do I want to have pizza and ice cream on a Saturday, then a Wednesday or a Friday? Absolutely. But do I want to have pizza and ice cream just poured into my mouth like that Simpsons clip when Homer goes to hell and they continually put the donuts in his gob? No, not particularly, because eventually I'm going to be like, man, I don't want any more donuts. I think a great thing to compare this to, and it's not really fair, but it is the last thing that happened, is the 4-hour Dynamite collisions that we've been doing. They're too much for me. And by hour number 3, we had the Beast Mortos and Bandito go out there, who had a brilliant match, but I was like, I can't do this, because it was just wearing me away. And that is not wrestling, that is the state of everything. So that is not great. But ultimately, and this is why I try and stay away from this, because I like to focus just on wrestling, this is not a wrestling problem. This is an entertainment problem. This is a capitalism problem. This is a corporation problem. This is we want to be the only dog in the yard, so we're going to try and squish anybody else that comes around. It has been happening for years. I mean, you can go back to, Jim Crockett, who tried to run whatever the flub show that was. Then magically the Survivor Series appeared, and then Vince McMahon was saying, if you run their pay-per-view, I won't let you have WrestleMania, and WrestleMania was the exciting Christmas tree that everybody wanted. And this goes both ways too. Again, let's make sure we bring in all examples. WCW, Eric Bischoff going on live television and saying, that Mick Foley is going to win the World Championship this evening. I only realized recently, because again, I was but a fetus then, he revealed the higher power. There is a commentary clip going around when Eric Bischoff is like, I don't think you need to tune into Raw, because the higher power's initials start with VM. I would have loved a heads up on that one, because that reveal was absolutely disappointing. So this is the wrestling business, right? But it's just more fun when there is competition in the workspace. There just is. It's better for the wrestlers. It's better for, I think the companies themselves, because I think WWE had a huge uptick when they thought, man, we've got to get our creative juices together, and they put on 3 years worth of amazing television. And we actually talked about this, cheap plug on my Patreon, patreon.com/Simon316, because the last watch along that went live today, if you're watching this, was Cody Rhodes versus Seth Rollins from WrestleMania 38. And the reason that Cody Rhodes entrance still gets me, it happened on the video like such a nerd, I got goosebumps, is because it's the AEW presentation. And I don't need to tell you this, because you can figure it out, but without AEW, we can't have the AEW presentation for Cody Rhodes. And it's the only thing, I don't want to say dislike, 'cause that's too strong, that I miss this when you get a Ricky Saints, or you get, I'm still not used to her name, Blair Monroe. You can call them whatever you want. Call them wobbly, jubbly, bubbly. What do I care? I'll be used to it in 6 months. But I miss the fact they can jump over from AEW and look and feel exactly the same. That's where I get excited. So I'm not tricking myself. This doesn't happen. Look at the movies, right? You look at the movies. Sometimes 2 movies will go head to head. And you're like, why are you doing that? It's because they're fighting. And they want to, here comes that word again, marginalize the other one, right? So it does become a business conversation very sadly. But it's mad. It's totally nuts. And it's certainly more transparent than it ever has been. I think that's the interesting point if we do want to get super nerdy and geeky about this. What has happened when all of a sudden WWE has decided, man, we want to sort of, I don't know what the right word is, but cast a shadow over AEW as much? I just don't think it's worthwhile, because surely, even though from an optics point of view, it would look better, and I don't agree with this at all. This is what I assume they think. It would be better for them to, again, to be the only game in town, which they were for 20 years. It's quite clearly better for the industry to have lots going around. So maybe they don't want it because, again, salaries are going up. I think the Wrestling Observer newsletter reported on Friday that, I can't remember the number, but it's like at least 7 wrestlers are on $5 million or more. And they're doing less dates. House shows have totally gone away. So the industry that we existed within today is, well, it's never been like this ever. So it's brand new in many ways. If they continue to make all of this cash, I don't see why they were just worrying about salaries. I think that's a point, don't get me wrong. And I think driving costs up is the last thing they want to do because they are a publicly traded company. But I would imagine if you put a gun to their head, which would be insane, and don't do that, it's massively illegal, the main reason for it is we don't want anybody buzzing around, and therefore we're going to try and get rid of them. And me as a fan, it works both ways. If you told me that somebody was trying to do this to WWE, I'd be like, no thanks. So if they're trying to do it to AEW, I'd be like, no thanks. Again, the wrestling sphere for me, I think do I mean this? I think I do to a certain degree. The last few years, I think wrestling has been way more enjoyable for me than it has been in a very long time. Not the tribalistic nature of it, but sometimes you can actually have more educated conversations about it, and it's just so great. And the fact they all feel completely different at the moment, like WWE's become the Disney of pro wrestling, and AEW feels like a cool, gritty movie that you can watch. I just really not be in the mood, as I turn into an AI voice, to go back to it. We just have one major wrestling promotion that you can watch every single week. And if you don't like the creative, which you won't at some point because they can't write for you, they have to write for everyone, that there's nowhere else to go. So it does suck a little bit, I think, especially because, and this is the way that I always look at wrestling, I look at the human side. I cannot believe, and there is a crossover in the audiences, we've seen that from television ratings and whatnot, but I cannot believe that more people are going to watch the Great American Bash than they're going to watch All In. I could be completely wrong about this. I'm just thinking, if you're an AEW fan that also watches NXT, All In is going to be your priority that weekend. Again, it's the WrestleMania of AEW, and there's some huge matches on there. Mercedes Moné, Toni Storm, Hangman Adam Page, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega versus Okada, and we don't know the Great American Bash cards yet, but there is terrific wrestlers on there, right? Obafemi, as far as I'm concerned, is probably going to main event at WrestleMania one day. I think he's brilliant. We talked about Ricky Saints. Ethan Page is the damn most consistent wrestler in the world. He can do whatever you want. Javon Evans is nonsense. He's like 22, maybe even 21 years old. Their women's division is arguably the best women's division on the planet, and Jordan Grace will be on the main roster soon, and that would be absolutely awesome. And you have people like Sol Ruka, who you see getting better and better, or Lash Legend, which means when they do get to the main roster, you're going to be even more emotionally attached to them. It's the coolest thing about NXT and developmental. So when people go, oh man, they botched a move. Good! It's developmental. I know WWE sells it more as a third brand, but they're still putting wrestlers on there that you could argue aren't ready for television, but they're doing that so they can get ready for television, so you can be a part of their, excuse it coming from me, the ups and the downs, and that is just going to make you like them more as a person, especially when they get called up to Raw and SmackDown, and then they're going to be even bigger stars. But I think it's really unfair to put them on a pay-per-view where less people are going to watch them, when you could put it on another day where there's no competition, and just by the law of averages, more people will tune in. Because again, the wrestlers are my favourite thing about it. And the stories and the reactions and the crowds and the fans and the discussions, obviously. But when you get to see someone, like I say, grow in this way, it's just fantastic. And let's say we do, I mean, what match haven't we done? I can't even think next, we've done so many. But Obafemi versus, I don't know, put a random name out of here. Tony D'Angelo. I think we've actually done that, right? Didn't Tony D'Angelo beat him somehow? The point is this, I love both those guys, and while they're not in their sphere at all when it comes to stories, especially because we've only got like a month or so, but if all of a sudden they're involved in a feud and I was massively invested in it, I wouldn't want them to be put in a position where they're going to be, let's do it for a third time, marginalised. I think that would suck, and that's the way that I'm always going to look at pro wrestling. I want everybody to breathe and everybody to grow, so that's why I don't like it. Now listen, I have a chaotic side. to me as well. It's quite big, to be honest with you. I've been inspired by Dr. Robotnik, and there's another part of me is like, great. Absolutely. You take shots at them and you take shots at them, because I got no stick in the game. Some people think I do. Some people think I'm paid by both AEW and WWE to point my finger in a certain direction. I can tell you now, in the 9 years I've been doing that show, not one person, be it an owner, be it anyone at What Culture, or be it a wrestler, has got in touch with me and said, Simon, you have to give this specific segment an up or a down. It has never happened, because they know I would go, no, that's not, it defeats the whole point of the show. But in that sense, I'm not affiliated with any of them. And of course, yes, I'm a wrestler myself, and I'd love to make an appearance for either one of them, but you'll know, friends, and I'll talk about it with you if it does happen. So it's not going to be like, oh, I knew it. I will make sure you have that information, and then you're allowed to choose to watch or not watch me based on what I do on my real life. But where I sit right now, I do get a little bit of fun out of it. Not when you get the mean people on the internet, they suck, but again, they're there for everything. But it is quite fun to be online especially and watch all this craziness going back and forth, right? It just is. Because there is a fandom thing to that. I guess it's a bit like, what do we call Oppenheimer and Barbie? Barbieheimer, I think that was called. Or was it Oppenby? It should have been Oppenby. It definitely wasn't, but it should have been. Now that was a bit different because they were trying to save cinema, so there was a bit more importance on that. But you did actually see people compare Barbie to Oppenheimer. I was like, I love this. This is absolutely wonderful. But, and it's the same with pro wrestling. So you are probably going to get Kenny Omega versus Okada and a random another match. Let's say we get Nikki Bella and Brie Bella taking on Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez. You will get people comparing those two matches. And in no sphere should anybody be comparing those two matches because they exist in totally different universes. Whatever I'm going to get from that tag match, I do not want from Omega versus Okada, and absolutely vice versa. I love that they both exist. I don't want to go off on a tangent here, but my biggest bugger at the moment is you will get people saying to you, this match was bad and this match was good. Objectively, that doesn't exist. Your match of the year is your match of the year. Your favorite match is your favorite match. It can be technically not very good, I suppose, and maybe a pro will tell you that, but if you get something from it and you're entertained by it, never let anyone tell you. It comes from New Japan a lot, and I love New Japan. I love the style, never go away. But a lot of people like that's the proper wrestling. That's where the real wrestling is. If you watch a New Japan show and then you watch Raw doesn't feel as good. What are you talking about? Are you on drugs? That doesn't make any sense. You want New Japan to be like Raw? You're the problem. You need to get out of here and never come back down again. So, you know, ultimately, I don't want them to do this. I don't. I think it's unfair. I think it's a big bully tactic. I mean, that sounds really sad and you should laugh at me, but that's what it is. They're like the big bad wolf walking into town. Oh, we're bigger than you and we'll stomp you out. But I believe in AEW's product. That sounds silly too, but you know what I mean? AEW puts on good shows regardless. And I think AEW can completely ignore this and just do what they want to do. And I totally believe they'll be okay. If I thought there was actually a genuine risk of knocking them off their perch, I would feel way more aggressive and way more intense about this. But I think AEW is in a great place at the moment. I think WWE is in a great place at the moment. Obviously, they could coexist should they want to. And if you're Tony Khan, you should be absolutely livid about this. Of course you should be. It's not the kind of practices that you want, especially because he's really backed off all of that and he's totally focused on what he is doing. But he's also a businessman. Like, you know, him and his father are worth billions and billions, and they work in, well, the soccer team, football team. They've got Fulham, they've got the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't want to make a list because there'll be loads of stuff, right? It's not the only two things that they do have going on. They will have seen these practices time and time again, and I thought the way that Tony Khan answered the question, I guess it was the double or nothing press conference, absolutely brilliant. As I've seen it before, but it's going to end differently this time. Wonderful. You don't need to get your knickers in the twist. You can be totally cool with it, and let's just see what's going to happen, because ultimately the truth is it's not going to stop. I would imagine that when we get towards the end of the year, it's just going to increase. It wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these AAA shows that are being filmed right now will magically go on YouTube to counteract anything AEW is doing. But the good thing for us as fans is that we can just sit back and enjoy all of it and hope, and I think it will be the way, they're all around for the rest of the time, right? Because wrestling is just way better. I watched wrestling from 2001 until 2019 when AEW was born, and it wasn't as good, because when WWE went off the boil, 2019, it absolutely sucked, and it felt like there was nowhere else to turn. And TNA had some great years, man. I mean, the AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels stuff was fantastic, but it never got to the level that AEW did now, so it never actually felt like it existed within the same ether. This does, and that's what makes it more fun. It feels like, oh, Dynamite's a big show and Raw's a big show. And I know now people going, yeah, but the ratings are the same. I don't care about the ratings. It's the feel I care about. It sounds like a moron, but it's true. It's the way that they are positioned in the world and how other people see them too. That's what matters to me and what comes through to me. And sometimes, even that TNA was actually quite big in the UK, but it would just be nothing. Nobody wanted to talk about it, and therefore it didn't feel as fun, whereas everybody, if you were a wrestling fan, wanted to talk about WWE. So I'm kind of in the middle of it. I don't like it as a business practice, but I'm not in that business. Like, would I do it to someone? I don't think that I would do. But again, because I see it in other realms of space as well, as you will, of course you will. Think of any two competing companies, I should say, it becomes immediately obvious. But yeah, again, I'm going to repeat myself because I think I do need like a go-home line for all of this. I just don't think AEW is in any trouble. I think AEW actually feels like it's more stronger now than it has been in ages. And I don't know what it's doing on Max, and I know the television numbers can kind of shift around, but I'm talking about it from a creative product and the morale and the attitude that comes out of the locker rooms, and it all feels good. And that feels the same at WWE as well. Some people feel like WWE's taken a bit of a hit recently. I don't think it's as exciting or as on fire as it was, especially a year ago going into WrestleMania 40, but I also think it's impossible to maintain that kind of momentum, and I also find there's a lull after WrestleMania. The lull isn't as bad as it used to be. My gosh, sometimes in June you'd be like, what are we doing? But again, because we have competition now, I just feel like the bar is way higher, and that's why I'm liking it. If all shows were 2 hours, so Raw was 2 hours, Dynamite was 2 hours, SmackDown was 2 hours, and Collision is 2 hours, depending on where it airs, I think you'd be getting some of the best television we've ever received, because 2 hours to me is the perfect length. It's the biggest problem with SmackDown at the moment. They're good shows, but that extra hour just makes you go, oh man. But it's still a good time to be a wrestling fan, and that's why I don't want to rag on it too much or forget the fact that even though I am an independent wrestler, I'm very proud to do that, it all comes from being a fan. And if I get a weekend where I get 4 shows, did I say, or was it 3 shows, whatever the flub it is, that can't be seen as a massively bad thing, as long as I believe that all the companies are going to be okay. And I do think they're going to be okay. I think AEW has their fan base. I think WWE has their fan base. Obviously, the WWE is the bigger company of the two, and it always will be. That's why I love AEW. I don't think I've ever thought they were ever going to surpass WWE. I'm not saying nor do they want to. I'm sure they do. But they're not fussed by it. It's not their MO. It's just to exist and make great wrestling content and be financially successful. That works for me. So I don't actually think I've made a point there. I just think I've made a lot of noise. But I just love wrestling, right? And sometimes I get some weird things on the internet where people feel like I'm gunning for a job or something like that. I've been doing it for 9 years and no one's ever given me a job. So I don't think that it's worked. But it doesn't come from that sort of a place. It comes from a true love and a passion for professional wrestling and feeling eternally blessed that I actually get to have this platform where I can sit on this wooden table with this stupid microphone and this stupid camera and talk about it and people actually give a damn. All that has done has increased my fandom. So I hope the WWE continues on. I hope the AEW continues on. I'm so excited for that All In show. And I'll be excited for whatever Great American Bash is. And Evolution 2 is going to be awesome. It's probably going to be one of the best women's shows ever. Does that make sense? But you know what I mean? They have such a good roster between NXT and the main roster that if you start putting some of these people together, it's going to be nonsense. I mean, what is the main event going to be? I have absolutely no idea. You could probably argue for about 42 different things. And yes, just to end on the most controversial point, I want Gunther versus Goldberg for that World Championship. Goldberg ain't going to win that, mostly because Triple H and him don't really like each other. I know that's true. That was true back in the day. But I loved Goldberg growing up. And of course, I want to see him go one time more. If it all screws up, so what? I move on. Trust me, I get to move on within 24 hours because 12 hours later, it's Evolution 2. It's going to be the dumbest weekend ever, but it is a fight. I'm not trying to pull the wool over my eyes. Of course, that is what WWE is doing. And if you can't see that, well, more power to you. You're allowed to enjoy this in whatever way that you wish to. But what I do know is it's going to be totally insane. Now, my friends, please do like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the notification bell, especially if you're on mobile, and click the video on the screen, which is me talking about SmackDown, and the very now weird promo between Punk and Cena, which has occupied my mind for around about 24 hours. Otherwise, yes, patreon.com/Simon316 for watch-alongs. It's only $5. GorillaMind.com/Simon. You go to Simon, get 10% off. Go check them out today. It ships worldwide. They're the best products. I do get a little bit of a kickback for everything you do spend. I want to be transparent, but I would not promote them if I didn't think that they work, because they do work. I had an energy drink today. That's why I'm so riled up. It's stupid. Simon316 on all social media. Simon Miller on Cameo, should you want a Father's Day message, that is today. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. I did a video yesterday that really made me laugh with AI, like this or that superstar thing. It was so bad. It cracked me up. Pro Wrestling Tees and Big Cartel for merchandise. But man, if you're an AEW fan, good for you. If you're a WWE fan, good for you. If you're a wrestling fan, good for you. Be nice to other people because it's just wrestling and it's not that big of a deal. But just enjoy it as much as you can. It's there to distract you from the horrible part of life. Don't let it become one of those two. See you soon.